Early morning, this is where my journey begins today. Got a little clearing that comes down to a creek. It's an obvious game trail. You can see it's down to sand here. A couple faint deer prints. You can see the obvious signs of game crossing this creek here because the debris are lifted and you have sand bottom. And obviously they go up in that spot there and you have game trails going in different directions. And that's a swamp back there. It's a hardwood swamp. Back that way is the Cedar Swamp. You can see cedar right here. Got plenty of high bush blueberry around. So my journey today, I'm going to hike through some swamp. I'm going to then head up into some higher ground and hike in some scrub. This is the edge of the Cedar Swamp. Lots of high bush blueberry. They're just loaded again this year. I'm going to feast on them before I move on. You see, this is a nice open area. Open enough to see a distance anyway. You truly get mixed up and lost if you get spun around out here. That's why I highly recommend, if you're not well skilled in direction, always carry a compass. Low areas like this, got your swamp maples, your blueberry bush, catbrier, and Spagna Moss. Telltale signs of a low-lying area. You find little damp hollers like this. There's no surface water, but if you dig a little bit, it's just under the surface. It's just nothing but water down there. If you get past all the roots, and it's a solid mat of roots here. It's very difficult digging. Once you get past that, you get into sand, and then you'll get into like a gray, almost white clay. That's where your good water is, down below this surface water. So I don't have the time to do it today, but I would dig down further, about 1.5 feet at least, and then that water, after you pull this surface water out, there's going to be water seeping in from lower down, and it's going to be better, clearer water. In fact, if you let it settle, it'll clear right up. And I'll demonstrate that another time. Don't have the time today. Got things to do. This is the kind of forest I grew up with. Go from scrubby forests and pines to mixed deciduous forests with pines and a lot of undergrowth, heavy brush in swampy areas, a lot of berry bushes. I love this kind of forest. The mother of all berry bushes. Just covered. Give me some eating time. Had to get out of that cedar swamp. It was getting, as the sun came up, the humidity was just lifting and it got so hot. I mean, I'm sweating like crazy now. So I got up out of there into a high scrubby area, and now the sun's beating down really heavy. It's getting very hot. This is an interesting spot. Big old tree here. It came down. Nice place to take a little breather. Just checking me out. There's 2 of them. Anyway, so as I was saying, I'm all geared up. Got a lot of gear on me. Not heavy. It's probably 20 pounds the most that I'm carrying. I got a good supply on me. You see I got my pack, gear. So I came out for a long day. Here's something really interesting. It's a dead tree, but the interesting part about it is that there's an absolute mound of pine cone litter around it. I've never seen a mound this big. It's about 4 foot in diameter and it's about 1 foot deep, which tells me that for generations and generations a red squirrel population has been coming here to perch and eat. And this would be a good indicator that this area would be a spot that rattlesnakes would thrive, since there's a good red squirrel population thriving here. You have to find open sand spots out here to come up with tracks. Now here's a spot that I know is a fresh track because it rained heavily last night, so everything's wiped out except what came this morning. This spot is just starting to be used by a squirrel to feed at. Here's the pith of the pine cone. Here's another pith. Here's the pieces it tears off the pith to get to the seed. Here we have a tree with all the bark off one side of it, and you would think that an animal or something stripped this bark off, but what actually happened is this tree was struck by lightning. It was struck at the top and it blew out the bottom here, and all the bark got blown off one side. In fact, the tree is split all the way through. You can see on the other side here, split clean through. Of course, it's got a strange blowout spot on the bottom here. But yeah, you can see the seam that follows all the way up and down the tree. I'll zoom in so you can see it. All the way to the top. Lightning is an amazing thing. And I've seen trees get struck right near me that blew right apart and ended up on the ground. Very scary thing. You don't want to be next to a big tree like this amongst smaller trees during a thunderstorm. Good chance you're going to get struck. You can see I'm on this deer trail now. It's very faint, but there is a deer trail here. I'm coming from this direction, and there are some other trails out here, very faint, but you can see them if your eye's trained. You can see one right here. The deer know how to find the best ways through the forest, so it's good to find a deer trail going through here. The only problem with that, you do pick up a lot of ticks and chiggers. Even the best repellents don't seem to stop all of them. But yeah, this is like 3 to 4 foot high scrub. It's a lot of open ground as far as trees are. The sun gets right through the canopy in most areas. Hard to find shade, so it does get very hot and dry. It rained very heavily last night, but already the leaves and pine needles are dry. So it's hard to get through here without making a sound at this point, but I did find a clearing. So I passed through several little open spots like this on my trek, but what drew me to this one in particular is not only its proximity to a lowland where there's water, but also instant shelter. So we have this broke off branch that's reaching down to the ground, and if you have a tarp or a poncho, a little bit of work, you can make a very quick shelter. But even better than that are this and this right here. Here we have a tree, very short scrubby tree that's leaning over almost down back to the ground with branches feathering out. Lay a poncho or a tarp over that, instant shelter. A little bit of work to secure the sides, and you've got a shelter to get out of the sun, to get out of the rain. It's already shady there, so that's a nice spot now. But to get out of the rain, pop-up thunderstorms, they come quick out here. We've had one almost every other day in this area. In this other area, which I like also, there's a couple options here. We have this tree that has a branch that overhangs to another tree. Great spot for a shelter. A couple more anchor points here. If you want to use some cross beams to make some other kind of shelter, build a shelter off the ground. Of course, we have this dead branch coming off the top of this one. Another spot where you could build sort of a TP type shelter. So many options here. Excellent, excellent spot to bug out. I'll spend a day here and enjoy. So what I'm on now is a general recon of my perimeter. Now when I do a bug out area or a place where I want to stop and use for observation of wildlife, I'll always do a general recon around the perimeter, but I'll also do recons past and beyond where I'm at, so that I know what's beyond a quarter mile, beyond a half mile, in different directions. So that gives me a general idea of what's out here, what the terrain is, where my water sources are, my exit routes in case of an emergency. I'm on a deer trail right now, and it's really good to get familiar with the deer trails in the area so I know which ones lead in which direction. Get familiar with landmarks. Here's one right here. Very large tree. Just get myself familiar with the whole area. And that's what I do anytime I choose a bug out spot or an observation spot for wildlife that's out of the way. I want to know where I'm at. I have a general idea of what's around me close by and what's around me in the distance, and choose landmarks so I can find my way in and out no matter what. See, excellent acorn production this year. Bare oak, scrub oak, etc. All the oaks seem to have a lot of acorns on them. And this is a prime spot for a base camp for me because it's in a transition area. We go from an area that way over there about a quarter of a mile, maybe a little less. It's open hardwood forest, mostly oaks and low huckleberry brush. It's very open, has a nice heavy canopy, and then we come into this area where it's very little canopy, but it's very heavy scrub growth. Lots of acorns, deer trails everywhere, and then we go a quarter mile that way, and we have very, very thick undergrowth, which leads into a swamp, a hardwood swamp, with surface water as well as a lot of spagna moss. Excellent area to go into for me for a base camp because this is a transition area. It transitions from hardwood forest open to scrub to swamp. And this is an area that there's going to be a lot of wildlife traveling back and forth, from food source to hiding place to water source, etc., etc. And I've kicked up numerous deer along the way, traveling in and out of this area and reconning it. Unfortunately, I've never captured the deer on film because I'm always just looking around and doing my thing instead of having the camera out, trying to save the battery. Batteries go quick. But I've made other videos where I sneak up on deer. I'll have to do another one where I sneak up on deer out here. I've gotten within 20 feet of a deer that was laying down, and it would jump up and take off. Didn't have the camera out, couldn't capture it. I'll have to come out here camera ready sometime. There are times where I've actually walked past a deer and didn't see it laying down 20 feet from me, and it would jump up behind me after I passed it. So deer are clever. Anyone that thinks it's easy to just sneak up on a deer has not been out here. Anyway, back to the base camp.